There's a recent article going around talking about how many indie developers are making gambling likes, gambling adjacent, rogue gambling, however you want to call it, likes of Clover Pit, Buckshot Roulette, Balatro, Luck Be a Landlord, and so on. And while the article doesn't quite make the connection to the whole mobile game live service fad, it doesn't really quite get into what this design is. So for today's video, we're going to be discussing the rise of engine building style games, why they're so popular, but also why this engine doesn't quite have a full tank of gas to go with it. Engine building style games are an extension of the whole auto chess, auto battler style design that became very popular in the middle of the 2010s, especially with a lot of mobile-based examples. I think one of the bigger ones was something like AFK Arena. The idea is that instead of the player directly interacting with what's happening in the game, you are making decisions before and after each round, match, turn, whatever you want to call it, which will then determine the hopeful success of your next one. So there are several reasons why this has become very popular. The first is that it's a very hands-off affair. You're not playing cards, swinging swords, shooting guns, commanding armies. You're putting a few things here, hit start, and the game does its own thing. Because of that, it also makes it very deterministic. Very few of these games will delve into kind of the RNG of a lot of the other games that we've played, especially deck building, roguelikes, action games, and so on and so forth. If I play 6 oranges, 5 apples, and 3 pears, and that gets me 20,000 points, then it's going to give me 20,000 points every single time. And if the game is only asking for 2,000, 3,000 points, it's easy. Now, if it's asking for 1 times 8 to the power of 30, that's a different story. And that takes us to the other aspect of engine building. The notion that there is a lot of planning and depth that is, again, going on behind the scenes. Balatro is, of course, one of the biggest examples and why it blew up so well. That, again, you're playing poker. But which jokers do you take? Which tower cards you attempt to go for? There's a lot that goes into the planning stages, and again, this is why engine builders are so popular. That you're spending a lot more time making these little plans, and then watching things just go completely off the rails. And again, this takes us to the final kind of popularity of an engine builder. When things go crazy. When your characters go from doing 20 points of damage to 8 trillion to 50 quintillion, that the screen just explodes in a symphony of fireworks and numbers and sound effects and anything like that. And we can even go way back to probably like the first example of a game really kind of exploiting, the gravitas or the audacity of play with something like Peggle. That the second you are about to hit that final peg, things slow down and then Ode to Joy starts playing and it's all so exciting. And while people can be quick to scoff about how effective that is, it is a time-tested and proven way to get someone engaged. It is the entire basis of the slot machine. That it's not just you roll 7s and the game goes, win. No, we need entire graphics playing and sound effects and the machine making all kinds of noises and explosions that someone just got the jackpot. And this is a great way that we can connect roguelikes and any kind of game that's built on just one more turn, just one more run to each other. That you had that amazing run, it's so fantastic, you just destroyed everything. So surely the next run's gonna be just as great or even greater, right? Or you lost, but you have to have the next run. You can't just end on loss, you gotta keep going until you get that win. And you can again see a lot of the parallels to the gambling industry. And again, why a lot of people will point to stuff like Balatro, Cloverpin, so on, as emulating gambling mechanics. But it goes a bit more deeper than that. The engine building style is one that, again, it fits for a lot of people due to its simplicity, and for streamers and people who cover games or YouTubers, it is just very easy content to make. Because you don't need to concentrate on making sure you land all your shots, or that you've created this perfect army of synergies and bonuses. You buy an item, you put it on, you hit the button, everything goes crazy, you do it again, and you rinse and repeat. And in a way that's kind of like low engagement style of games, we can definitely see as an interesting point the rise again of the job simulator games. That every few weeks it seems like we get another one that every single streamer and YouTuber must play. We saw that with that Retro Rewind, what was it, Specimen 1, many other job simulator games, Power Wash Simulator, any game with the word simulator in the title seems to blow up like this. Because it gets at some of the basics of kind of what makes games so addicting to play. When you look at the engine builder, it is a game that's about just dopamine. We go back to Vampire Survivors and its popularity. That again, it's not about direct interaction. It's about kind of cutting out the middleman, just getting to those rushes of power and color and explosions and noises. And that's addicting. It makes you feel good to watch number go up. That has been the foundation for every single idle incremental game ever released in the past, I think we're up to like 20, 30 years now. Though, not quite sure what the first idle game is anymore. Maybe I have to write a book on that, I'll have to look that up. And why these games are so popular, again, why people equate this to gambling and the gambling not gambling arc, is that it provides you with a lot of room to add breadth, but not exactly add depth. And that goes back to the stinger that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. While these games are great for short-term engagement, every single one tends to hit this wall. Maybe it's after 3 runs, 10 runs, 1 run, that it just feels like, okay, what else does this game have? And the answer in most cases is not much else. When I talk a lot about the success of games like Vampire Survivors, Brotato, 20 Minutes Till Dawn, kind of the bullet heavens that really succeeded in that respect, they did so by providing more. That, yes, you want to run. Here's an entire spreadsheet of unlocks and items and new perks and maps and other challenges that you can do. For a lot of bullet heavens, you win and the game goes, yay. Can you do it again just the exact same way, or maybe you'll just be even more powerful? And this gets at kind of the issue that I have with a lot of the engine builders, that they kind of work on an opposite situation. That's not that you unlock more things and the game gets easier, it's you unlock things and the game gets harder. That the number of ways you can manipulate the game to win degrades as you get higher in difficulty. It's very similar that we see with a lot of deck builders. That if on, let's say, Ascension level 1, enemies do 20 points of damage, and my defense card does 10, or can block 10, okay, 2 defense cards, I can stop that damage. If we're up to Ascension 16, and now enemies do 60 points of damage, and my defense cards still only do 10 block a pop, that's not going to work. And it's one of the problems that you have to worry about when you're building any kind of deck building game or any game where you have fixed choices. That if what you're requiring becomes more and more stringent, but the choices themselves are not changing, it then becomes a case of the ability to win becomes far more narrow. And I had that issue when I played Balatro. That, yes, playing on the lower poker chips or difficulty settings, it's so damn easy. Because the game is not really testing you or testing the RNG. But when you get I think 3 or 4 difficulties in, suddenly it becomes a lot harder to even survive the first few rounds. And it doesn't necessarily become this case of, well, the player has to get good. The player has to learn how the rules work and get better at the game. It's basically, does the game give you a Hail Mary? If it does, you can keep going. If it doesn't, the run is entirely over. And some expert players of games may chime in at this point and say, well, no, that's not the case. If you're amazing at this game, you can make even the worst runs or the worst hands work. But that is not really the case when we talk about engine builders. The whole notion of an engine builder is that you have to build the engine. You need to be able to stay ahead of the game. And if you don't stay ahead, if you're just barely breaking even or not even reaching that, you're kind of screwed. I tried another one during Next Fest. I think it was the Loopler. And this was another one that I saw so many people cover incremental games and engine builder games, just jumping for joy and foaming at the mouth over how great this game is. So, I played the first run, had the crazy number go up moment where my loop is just going wild and it's so great and fantastic, and I win. I then start a second run, and I get nothing. No synergies, no good items, and within 3 rounds or 3 turns, the run's over and I lose. Did I do anything different on that second run? No. The game just decided, you're not getting anything useful this run, so... And a recent example of when this doesn't seem to work, I recently tried the Loopler. This is another engine building style game. It was one that if you see a lot of people who cover incremental games, engine builders, roguelikes, they were just foaming at the mouth at how exciting this game was and watching the car go around the track and number going up. And I played it on the very first run. I had that crazy moment where I just entered this infinite loop, and again, numbers going up, things are lighting up and making noise. It was so wonderful and incredible. Then I start my second run on a higher difficulty, and I get zip. Nothing. No good items, no good gates, nothing that gets the engine started. So, you know what I did? I lost. And there is literally nothing I could have done to make it work. And this again gets at the difference between an engine building style game and other titles that have more hands-on or more interaction. If I get a bad item in Binding of Isaac, my skill can oftentimes carry me through it. Same goes for the likes of Spelunky. In games like A Slay the Spire, or Monster Train, and so on, not getting the best card, there's still other means of getting around that. Anyone who's played a deck builder or any kind of game building RNG will always know that just because you didn't get the meta-breaking item this run, doesn't mean there's other potential strategies, there's other ways of winning. But in an engine builder, if the game says you must do 500 points to win, and all the items and perks and drops that you get equal to 100 points, there's nothing else. There's no means to get around it, there's no player interaction that's going to circumvent it. And like I said, this is why a lot of these engine building style games tend to lose me. Without that second or additional layer of player interaction or player control, it just becomes, well, a slot machine. And despite any professional gamblers who might interject, you can't get good at a slot. The player does not directly impact whether or not they get a jackpot when they pull that lever. And as I said at the start, this is why a lot of these engine builders have become very popular, not just among the general consumer, but also from people who like to cover these games. It is very much easy content to play and get into. And ultimately that takes us to our final point. A good engine building game, much like with the rise of mobile and live service titles, is incredibly quick to learn and get engagement out of. Because again, you don't have to worry about direct involvement. You play a card, you put a guy on the board, you hit play, things go. And that immediacy from start of game to watching something happen is again why there's so much in terms of approachability to these titles. This is not like playing a game like XCOM, or as we're going through Menace, where it takes a lot of time to learn these games before you get that payoff. No. When you play something like Luck Be a Landlord, or any of one of these other examples, hit start, you put something on the board, and things start happening. And while not every game obviously can have that immediacy of approachability and excitement, it's still something important to consider from a new player's point of view. How easy is it for someone to get to the good stuff? Some games, it's a few seconds, few minutes, few hours. If we're talking about some really hard games, it could be a few weeks of playing. The real game starts at 6 months of play. I'm sure that goes really well for some of these titles. And to wrap everything up for today, engine builders have their origins from the live service side, which again have their origins from gambling and the kind of gambling industry. That it is about very fast and rapid progress, excitement, but it has a very kind of low engagement or low complexity beyond that. That even after you've had your 50th, 100th, 500th, 1000th run playing, yes, you've learned more about the game, but it doesn't make it any easier to play. As I said, if the game doesn't give you the items that you need, you're not getting it. And I've watched people who have, gone like 50 to 100 hours in some of these games. And they've had runs where it's just basically start, get through the first item, nothing good, restart, and repeat until they get that one item or that one perk or that one joker that they know that they can make something happen, or at least they have a chance at making something happen. And for those of you watching, do you enjoy engine builders? And do you reach a point, if you do play them, that it just starts ending up feeling like you're just going around a circle, or a loop, or doing a slot machine over and over again? When we talk about how this can equate to roguelike design or roguelike elements, that the best roguelikes offer multiple avenues of success. It's why it's important not to define your game around 2 or 3 builds that will always win, and maybe 3 to 5 builds that only work on lower difficulties. Because if a build, or an item, or a card, or whatever, if it cannot be used to win the game, then it's only going to be a waste of an item. Because it doesn't matter how great your start is, when you get to that final boss, final card, final joker, whatever you want to describe it, and it's demanding you to get to a value that you have no ability to do, then the run just feels like a waste. There's no sense of learning or getting better at the game. And that's ultimately, again, where these engine builders tend to fail, or they tend to stop. And there's no real easy answer to this. Because when we give up player control for the luck of the slot, or the luck of the card, or however you want to describe it, because at the end of the day, when you're giving up player control or player engagement for the slots, the cards, the clovers, or anything else, The game says no. It just says no. There's nothing more you can do about it. So with that, thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you'll get your own jackpot after watching all this, and see everyone in our next design video coming soon. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.